In this video, I'm going to talk about 2 ways to split lists across a large text box. So there's 2 ways to do this. There are tabs and there are split columns. So I have 2 lists here, and these are where I'm going to demonstrate our 2 methods. So on this first one, I'm going to use the tabs method. So the first thing I'm going to do just for demo purposes is I'm going to hit Option Command I, and this is going to show my hidden characters. So I can see all my little returns. This little paragraph symbol means a return. So after each word, I'm going to go and press the Tab key. And I'm just going to do the first 6 because I want to have 3 columns of 3. So now that I have those tabs in there, those little double caret symbols, I'm going to cut my second 3 and start building out my second column. And then I can cut the last 3 and paste those in what will be the third column. So I'm just going to double check that I've got tabs there and I have these tab symbols here. So now all I need to do is actually set those tabs. And there's 2 ways to do that. So I am using paragraph styles, which I cover in other videos. So I'm going to show you how to do it without paragraph styles and with paragraph styles, depending on what you're working on. So if it's going to be a document listing a lot of text, I'm always going to recommend paragraph styles. But if you like to style your text first and then introduce styles, I'll show you how to do this without styles first. So I'm going to highlight any part of these 3 lines. You don't have to get the exact whole line, you just need to hit each line. And then I'm going to press Shift Command T, which is also type and then tab, so that will also bring up this window. So this should automatically open up to the width of your text box. And we have our types of tabs here. We have our left align tab, center align, right align, and align on a decimal or other specified character. So this is the one most people don't know about. It's actually better for things like numbers and currency. So you can align everything on a decimal point and your column will be nicely aligned that way, rather than seeing that decimal point move around if you have, very different width numbers if you're talking currency, or if you have a lot of different decimal lengths, 1, 2, or 3 decimal places, it makes a nice column that way. So that's a specialist topic for another video. So I am going to use my left justified tab because I want the look of columns. So I'll leave that selected and I'm going to click in this top bar here. So not inside the ruler, but above it. And then I'll do it again, and that will set my second tab. So I'll click off that so you can see better. I'm going to press Option Command I to hide those special characters. So it looks like this gap might be a tad bigger. So I can always go back and I can click on that little arrow and I can move it over a little bit. If you get this is the Indesign Display Bug, and then you can see it changes. So I intentionally clicked in the wrong spot so you can see what happens. This is usually where I find people getting really confused. So remember, I started by having like 3 lines highlighted, and there I clicked off of it and it was in just 1 line. That's going to be a disaster. Make sure you start with all 3 lines. And if you want to remove a tab, so now I have 2 here, I can grab one and pull it off. And now I can move a tab and all my lines are going to cooperate. So this is yet another reason to be using your paragraph styles while you do tabs. It's going to be way easier to keep everything on that style connected to all the same tabs. So I'm going to go ahead and close that window. If you were going to make styles now, this would be a great time to highlight this and then add a new paragraph style. So I'm going to close this window and just going to keep hitting undo until I'm back to this point where I've got all my tabs typed in. And it's very important to remember that you have to type a tab in order for any to be recognized. You can't just put some spaces and then expect the tab to work because you haven't actually typed the tab. So I've got my cursor in one of these words, and I'm going to highlight these and apply my list 1 style. So I went in and made this before it just has a font in it and nothing else. So I'm going to double click to edit that style. And I'm going to go to my tabs area. And here I've got basically the exact same thing in a slightly more awkward layout. Got the same types of tabs, got my ruler, got my bar to plant those tabs in. So again, I'm going to use a left align tab. And I can see behind in my document where that line is going to go. And then I'll just drag another one. Looking pretty good. So I'll click OK. And now any text I type that has tabs in it will automatically take that style. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to copy all these words. I'm going to paste them down here. I'm going to select all of them and choose basic paragraph. So now this has no styles on it whatsoever. You can see my tabs went away. As soon as I apply list 1, format of the font changes as well as the tabs. So it's very much integral to being an element of the paragraph. So that's our tab method. So for this list, these all just have returns after them, much the same. But I'm going to use a different method for this one. So sometimes I'll see students come and they want this 3 or 4 column look, and they'll just draw another text box, and then over in their properties, they'll go and split it into multiple columns, and then put a text wrap on it so it sits in here and bumps out of the text. It's not a great method. Instead, I'm going to use something called split columns. So the first thing I'm going to do is highlight these lines because this is the only place I want this to apply to. And then I'm going to go to Window, Type, and Tables, and choose Paragraph because I need my entire paragraph palette to pop out. So the feature I'm looking for is split column, but it's actually a feature underneath span columns. So I'm going to choose span columns from my side menu in my paragraph palette. Span columns is a function where, like in a newspaper, if you have a headline that goes across a few columns of a multi-column article, that would be spanning columns. So if I designed this whole document to have 3 columns, I could make the headings span all those columns and they wouldn't follow those guidelines. So here in my span columns, I'm going to change it to split columns. And I've got it on 3 columns here. You can see if I went down to 2, it would automatically just split my box in half. You can edit the spacing if you want for your gutters, which are explained with these helpful little pictures. So I'm going to put this back on 3. And I'll click OK. And now I've got these 3 perfectly split throughout my whole column. So you can see the difference. It really depends how you want to use your page. If you know you want to use this whole width of your text box, split columns is definitely the easiest way to go. If you know you don't want to use the whole width, you might just want to stick with tabs. So to do split column in my paragraph styles, first I'm just going to do a Command Z to undo that change. I'm going to go into my paragraph styles. So this is my list 2. I'll open that up, go to span columns, change single column to split column. Again, leave it on 3, and with my preview box checked, I can see it's done the same thing. And I'll click OK. One thing to note about doing the split column is if this is the end of your document, if you don't have any more text or anything here, it will tend to not go into columns right away. But as soon as you start typing something else, it will. That's why I put this extra goofy headline in here, just to make sure I had extra text so that these would obey that split column rule. So those are two ways to create some temporary columns in your layout through tabs, split column, and also using paragraph styles to help with that.